Good evening. My name is Sofía Sequeira. I work at Connect San Jose, and welcome to the English class. Today, we're going to review some of the most important contents for the first evaluation of the semester. In chapter 1, we have the topic for books, stories, writers, movies. So in this unit, you're going to speak about what's your favorite book, what's your favorite movie, who's your favorite writer, and you have to study vocabulary related to those topics, okay? Today, we're going to work on grammar. Some of the most important topics for grammar is reported speech. Reported speech is to report what a person said before, okay? Cuando reportamos lo que otra persona dijo. Usually we have to pass the verb form from present simple to past simple. And in some cases, we have to change to past perfect. For example, in ontología, we have these words, verbs and auxiliaries that we have to transform from present to past. For example, am changes to was, is to was, are becomes were, do becomes did, have becomes had, words becomes worked, worked becomes had worked. That is the past perfect, okay? Had worked. Can becomes could, will becomes would, and sometimes we have the option to keep, if the sentence is in simple past, we have the same in simple past, okay? Here we have some examples. Direct speech, I am at home. Reported speech, she said that she was at home. Indirect speech, he ordered Chinese food. But in reported speech, he said that he ordered Chinese food. In direct speech, Mary can play tennis. Reported speech, Maria said that Mary could play tennis. In direct speech, I have called my mom. In reported speech, she said that she had called her mom. That is the past perfect, had called. And he will do the homework in direct speech, and in reported speech, he said that he would do the homework, okay? Another topic that we have for grammar in chapter 1 is the past perfect. In the past perfect, we have the auxiliary had and the past participle of the verb. For example, I had worked. You had worked, she had worked. All the subject pronouns are going to take had. And the past participle, in this case, is worked. It is regular. If it is regular, we only add ed at the end. Worked. Okay? Regulares terminan en ed. Negative past perfect. Here we have to say, I had not eaten. Yo no había comido, okay? Had not, we make it a negative, and eaten is the past participle. The past participle is eaten, in the present is eat. But you have to memorize the irregular verbs that are in the list of irregular verbs in Antología. You can find the list of irregular verbs. En la primera columna están el presente simple, en la segunda columna de la lista de verbos irregulares está el pasado simple y en la tercera columna está el past participle, que sería el que vamos a utilizar en este tema. I had not eaten. You had not eaten. Also, you can use the contraction hadn't, okay? Hadn't or had not. In questions, we have, had you been at work? We start with the auxiliary had after the subject you, and been is the past participle, and the rest of the question. And in the second example, what had she done before the meeting? Okay, W word what, WH word what, had the auxiliary, she is the subject, and done is the past participle. Okay. ¿Qué había hecho ella antes de la reunión? Okay, basically, that is the first important topics that we have in this unit. The second topic that we are going to see is the one for present future simple. Okay, the future simple, I'm going to show you here. I'm going to share the future simple with will. Okay, in these examples, we're going to use will, that is the auxiliary in the future. I think Brazil will win the next World Cup. Okay, we have will and the base form of the verb, win. Okay, creo que Brasil va a ganar la próxima Copa Mundial. It's hot inside. I'll open the balcony door. It's hot inside. I'll is the same, I will open the balcony door. I'll is the contraction. She'll order pizza. Is in the future. She won't buy that top, it's short for her. Won't is the negative form, will not. The contraction is won't, okay? You can use won't or will not buy, okay? There won't be enough water in future. Won't is will not, okay? Won't be. The base of the verb, be, right? The infinitive. And in a question, will you marry me? We start with the auxiliary will. After the subject you and marry, the verb. And WH word, when will you graduate? We have the auxiliary will, subject, and the verb graduate. Okay, basically, this is the future simple. Now, we're going to see some of the examples for the comparative and superlative form of adverbs. For the adverbs, we're going to see some examples. Okay, here we have some examples of adverbs that end in "ly." Okay, adverbs ending in "ly", we have carefully, quickly, but when we want to make comparative or superlative, we have to add the word more carefully, more quickly, and the superlative most carefully, the most quickly, okay? Remember that in the superlative, we have to add the most carefully. The adverbs that end in "ly" is, for example, in Spanish, when we say mente, fácilmente, rápidamente. So, for example, carefully, cuidadosamente, quickly, rápidamente, okay? So, for example, Anna drives more carefully than Patricia. Or Anna is the most carefully at driving. Okay, so that is the use of comparative and superlative with ly. When we have adverbs with the same form as adjective, for example, fast, hard, early, okay, they're like adjectives. We have to remember the rule that one syllable, when we want to make a comparative, we have to add ER at the end. So fast becomes faster, hard becomes harder, early becomes earlier. Remember that early is because it ends with a Y, Y. So we add IER. Early is a short adjective. In this case, is very short, early, okay? So we have to add IER at the end, okay? And in the superlative form, fast becomes the fastest, hard becomes the hardest, early becomes the earliest. And remember that irregular adverbs, you have to memorize it. You have to study, memorizar the irregular adverbs. For example, badly becomes worse in the comparative and worst in the superlative. Well becomes better in the comparative and best in the superlative. Little becomes less in the comparative and least in the superlative. And the adverb much becomes more in the comparative and the most in the superlative form. Okay, so you have to memorize those adverbs. Now, another grammar content that we have for Unit 2, we're going to see that Chapter 2, Unit 2 in the program. In this chapter, we're going to talk about social media, social networks, and social networks that we use to communicate. So you have to study the vocabulary for internet, technology, apps, Facebook, WhatsApp, and all these apps that we use to communicate. We have to study that vocabulary in chapter 2. Okay. One of the topics for chapter 2 is the present tense. In the present tense, we're going to see the rules, the most important rules. We use it to talk about regular activities, habits, and opinions, or give scientific facts, okay? For example, routines and habits. I brush my teeth in the mornings. His flatmates work from 9 to 5 every weekday. My uncle buys his clothes at that shop. Mary and Tim always wear a suit on their wedding anniversaries. She has her lunch in that small cafe. Those are simple present sentences, and you can see that only when we talk about he, she, or it, we have to add an S to the verb. My uncle buys, she has, okay? We also use it for opinions. She doesn't like horror and action films. This is a negative sentence that we use doesn't, okay? We're going to use doesn't in negative sentences for she, he, and it. And the verb like is the same. No cambiamos el verbo, okay? My brother thinks playing chess is boring. We agree with your new idea. Also, we have scientific facts or truths. The earth revolves around the sun. Paris is in France. And for timetables, the first lesson starts at 10:15. The plane to Rome departs at 10. Next Saturday is my birthday. Okay, so you can see that we only add the S when we have she, he, and it. Okay, for these examples, we're going to use the form. So we have the subject pronouns like I, you, we, and they, and we use the base form of the verb. For example, I play soccer, football, you play football, we play football, and they play football. The verb doesn't change, okay? It's the base form of the verb. But when we have he, she, or it, we use the S. He plays football. She plays football. It plays with a ball. So we have the verb and we write an S next to the verb, okay? And the negative form and questions, we have to see that sometimes we need the auxiliary do or does to make negatives and to make questions. For example, in the positive sentence, we have I drink milk before bedtime. Tom drinks milk before bedtime. In the negative sentences, we have don't and doesn't. I don't drink milk before bedtime. Tom doesn't drink milk before bedtime, okay? So remember, with he, she, it, we write doesn't when it's negative. And for questions, we have, do you drink milk before bedtime? Does Tom drink milk before bedtime? So the same, we do, I have I, you, we, and they. And with does, we use she, he, it to make questions. The verb in the negative and in the questions is the base form, okay? El verbo en las negativas y en las preguntas no se modifica, se deja igual como un infinitivo, como un verbo base, ¿ok? No se le modifica nada cuando está en negativo ni pregunta. Okay, here are some examples for the verb to be in the present simple. For example, his name is John. My brothers are 15 years old. This city isn't perfect for you. I am tired now. Okay, this is the conjugation of the verb to be. I am, she is, he is, it is, we are, they are, you are. Okay, you have to study verb to be in the present. Here we have the negative isn't, right? That is not. Or when we have are not, am not. For example, here, I am from the USA. I'm not from Scotland. That is a negative. You, we, they, you are 13 years old. You are not a baby. He, she, it. She's a naughty girl. She's not hardworking at all. Okay? We have affirmative and negative. And remember that when we have the verb to be, we don't use do or does, okay? I am at school. She isn't very lucky, but we don't use do or does. Remember, verb to be is independent. Cuando tenemos verbo to be, no podemos utilizar do or does porque el verbo to be es independiente, okay? Okay, so basically, these are the main rules for simple present. Now, we're going to review the rules for the forms of the simple past. Okay, in the simple past tense, we have to review the use, the rules, and we're going to see some examples, okay? Okay, we use the simple past to express that idea or an action that started and finished at a specific time in the past, okay? The action finished. It was in the past. Some time expressions that we use are yesterday, last month, last year, last week, ago, in 1980, or specific dates, right? And we have some examples. I saw Maria yesterday. Saw, remember that is an irregular verb in the past. In the present, we use see, okay? In the simple past is saw. I saw Maria yesterday. Yo vi a María ayer, okay? Last Friday, the students took their spelling and vocabulary test. Took is in the past. In the present, we use take, but in the past, took, okay? Took, tomaron exámenes el viernes pasado. They got married 2 years ago. Got in the present is get, okay? But we have to use got in the past. These actions finished. Remember that we have regular and irregular verbs. For example, taught, irregular. Walked, regular. Studied, regular. Gave, irregular. Became, irregular. Cried, regular. Lived, regular. Did, irregular. So you have to memorize, you have to study the regular and irregular verbs in the present and in the past, okay? Regular verbs end with ed. Okay, walk changes to walked. Study changes to studied. Cry changes to cried. Lived changes to lived. These are regular. The irregular verbs don't end with ed. They change, okay? They are different. For example, become in the present becomes became in the past. Give in the present changes to gave. Drive changes to drove. Forget changes to forgot. Other irregular verbs change in a different way. For example, teach, taught. Bring, brought. Leave, left. Hear, heard. Buy, bought. Celia bought a new computer last weekend. Okay, that is simple past. And some irregular don't change. Algunos se quedan igual. For example, in simple present hit, simple past hit. Put, put. Said, said. The children set the table every Sunday. That is in the present. The children set the table last night. That is in the past. Okay, for example, when I was a child, I played the piano in simple past. So in parentheses, we have it in present, but in the line, we have played in simple past. Donna visited Paris. Okay, these are regular verbs. For irregular verbs, we have these examples. Last week, I sent you a letter. The students had an English exam. They did a great job. Okay, so you have to memorize these examples, these irregular verbs. And for negative sentences, we use did, that is the auxiliary, did not, or the contraction didn't. And we use the base form of the verb or the infinitive, okay? The base form. No se cambia el verbo, se deja igual cuando está negativo. I went to work yesterday. That is simple past. I went to work yesterday. In the negative, I didn't go to work yesterday. I didn't go. Go is the base form infinitive. No puedo poner ahí didn't went, porque ya didn't está en pasado. Ya me está indicando que la oración está negativa y que está en pasado. Por eso pongo go y no puedo poner went. Okay. Base form, infinitive, go. And remember that the verb to be is special. Never use did not or didn't when we have verb to be. We have to use was or were. No se puede usar did with verb to be. Was or were not. Was not, were not. For yes, no questions, we use did, the subject, the verb. Did you go to work yesterday? Okay, the base form of the verb, go, okay? In the simple way, in the base form, go. Because we have did, como tenemos did, pongo go como que estuviera infinitivo o en presente, okay? Did you go to work yesterday? Did you come yesterday? Okay, here is like an extra practice. For example, last year I spent my holiday in Ireland. It was, verb to be, it was great. I traveled around the city by car with 2 friends and we visited lots of interesting places in the evenings. We usually went to a cafe. We, verb to be, were very lucky with the weather. It Didn't rain is a negative. Didn't rain a lot. We saw some beautiful rainbows. I had an amazing holiday. Okay, so this is a link that you can access for extra practice. Now, we are going to see the last content that is very important for chapter 2, that is the conditionals. Okay. In the conditionals, we're going to see how we can use them. Second and third conditional. Unreal conditional. The second conditional is like an imaginary situation and how we would do or react to different situations. If, in the form if, is si. Simple past, el que acabamos de ver, would, and the infinitive or the base form, okay? El verbo base, normal, would and verbo. For example, if I found her address, I would send her an invitation. Si yo encontrara su dirección, le enviaría una invitación. If, si, found, encontrara, por eso está en pasado simple. Would es como el ia que le agregamos en español a las palabras y send el infinitivo, el verbo base. I would send her an invitation. Okay, some variations is that we can use might or could instead of would. Se puede usar might y could en vez de would. For example, if I had more time, I might take up a foreign language. O sea, en vez de might, podemos utilizar would también. Si tuviera más tiempo, tomaría clases de un idioma extranjero. More example. If I were rich, I would buy a mansion. If I won the lottery, I would buy a house. Okay. Si fuera rico, compraría una mansión. Si ganara la lotería, compraría una casa. Okay, we have were, simple past, would buy. In the second example, won, simple past, would buy. Okay. So, in conclusion, the second conditional, it is like a very impossible way to happen. It is not likely to happen. Es algo que costaría mucho que se cumpla. Okay. Now, we have the past unreal conditional, the third conditional. This is like an imaginary situation, but in the past. For example, ¿qué hubiéramos hecho si hubiera pasado tal y tal cosa? For example, the form if, si, past perfect, had, acuérdense que el past perfect lleva had y lleva el verbo en pasado participio. Luego tenemos would have, siempre vamos a poner would have, y the past participle, otra vez el pasado participio, o sea, en la lista de verbos irregulares, los que están en la tercera columna. ¿Ok? Si el verbo es regular, como vimos en el pasado simple, nada más le agregamos ed. Pero si es irregular, tenemos que poner el pasado participio del verbo irregular que hay que aprenderse de memoria. ¿Ok? También la oración puede empezar al revés, como viene ahí abajo. Would have primero y el past participle. Luego if y de último el past perfect. Lo que hay que aprenderse es que if siempre va a estar a la par del past perfect. O sea, had y otro verbo en pasado participio. In purple we have, if I had owned a car, I would have driven to work. Si yo hubiera tenido un carro, yo habría manejado al trabajo. If I had owned a car, I would have driven to work. Okay, and the variations might and could. If I had studied harder, you might not have failed the test. Si usted hubiera estudiado más, no habría fallado el examen. Okay, igual might, ahí puede ir would, ¿verdad? And the meaning is imaginary situations in the past, okay? Look at the two examples. What would you have done if you had won the lottery last week? I would have bought a house. ¿Qué hubiera hecho usted si hubiera ganado la lotería la semana pasada? I would have bought a house. Yo habría comprado una casa. Por eso ponemos would have y luego el pasado participio bought. ¿Ok? I would have bought a house. If I had won the lottery, I would have bought a car. If I had had more time, I would have traveled to Europe. Okay. So basically, we are finishing with the main contents for the first evaluation of the semester. Just one detail, just to end. In Antología, we have on page 36, we have can and could. I want to show you on 36 the example for can and could for you to remember the meaning, okay? For example, can. You can use can for ability in the present. I can speak English. And could, you can use it for an ability in the past. I could play the piano when I was younger. So basically, can is an ability in the present. Could is an ability in the past. Yo puedo hablar inglés. Y could, yo podía tocar el piano cuando estaba más joven, okay? And look at the different uses for asking for permission for can I borrow your pen please? Or ask for permission for could I use your bathroom please? Okay, it could es más, una manera más formal de pedir un permiso. And to request something, can you help me please? Could you pass me the salt please? Okay, possibilities. It can get very cold there at night. Puede ponerse frío, right? And a possibility in the past. What? You could have broken your leg. Pudo haberse roto su pierna. And if we want to offer some help, can I carry your bags for you? Or a suggestion when we use could, we could go to the movies if you like. Podríamos ir al cine si quieres. Cannot or can't, when we have it negative, okay? You cannot smoke in this room. You can't go to the party. And the conditional that we already studied, okay? So I hope that you understood all the contents, that you have it clear now, that you can study and review these topics for the first evaluation. I hope this was good for you. So thank you and see you the next time. Good luck. Goodbye.